Hare Krishna, we'll begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shavasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, we are continuing our discussion from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28. Puranjan becomes women in the next life. So far we have heard Puranjan in search of a kingdom, wandering through various places, finds a beautiful place on the southern side of Himalayas, that is a human body. As he is entering, he enters a city of 9 gates, that's a human body. He finds a very beautiful lady, that is his material, contaminated, dharmic intelligence. Ultimately gets married to her, Puranjani. So very attracted and enamored by her beauty, he would do whatever she would say. And the time passed by. He became old. He was attacked by, the city was attacked by another powerful Gandharva. And that Gandharva was, what is the old age called as? That is Kalakanya. Yeah. The Chandaveg attacks, first of all. Chandaveg means the time factor attacks. Along with time factor comes the Gandharvas and the Gandharvis, the days and nights. And then the sister of Chandaveg, the daughter of Chandaveg, that is Kalakanya, she is old age. She attacks along with fear. And then the 5-footed serpent was fighting so long. Now he became old. Ultimately, Chandaveg and Bhaya and Kalakanya started destroying the entire city. That means the body becomes old. And ultimately, he was forced to leave the city. He dies. That's what we heard in this 28th chapter, first part. And then Puranjan, because he was attached to his wife, he remembered his wife, becomes a woman in the next life, Vaibhav. And we are hearing the story of Vaibhav. Because Puranjan was a pious king and he served the devotees also. So as Vaibhav, she got married to Malaya Dhwaja. So a living entity, by some Agyat Sukriti, he gets the spiritual master. And then ultimately, he begot so many daughters and sons. The daughters are the taste for serving Krishna. And the sons are the Navvidha Bhakti. And then from those sons, thousands of other sons appeared. That means innumerable ways a devotee wants to serve Krishna. In due course of time, Malaya Dhwaja, he took Vanprastha, retired from the kingdom. Vaidarbhi, she followed him. And we discussed till verse number 42. This Malaya Dhwaja, he became enlightened soul, perfected being. What Vaidarbhi was doing, 43rd verse onwards, are beautiful instructions for a disciple. Patim param dharam jnanam dharma jnana patim parama dharmakyam Vaidarbhi malayadvajam premna paryacharadhitva bhogansa pati devata. Translation.
The daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband all in all as the supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and, in complete renunciation, followed the principles of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus, she remained engaged in his service.
Okay. So Vaidarbhi, she served her husband with devotion. She gave up all types of enjoyment. And Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport. Figuratively, Malayadhvaj is the spiritual master and Vaidarbhi is the disciple. Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastra. Spiritual master is not different than Krishna. He should be served in the same way as the Supreme Lord. Although he is described as Haritvena, but Kintu Prabhurya Priyayevatasya. He is the most confidential servant of the Lord. He should be treated exactly like the Lord. If a woman is fortunate enough to be the wife of a pure devotee, she can serve her husband without any desire for sense gratification. And she will automatically attain the spiritual perfections of her husband. Which other example we have heard or seen of somebody served her husband nicely?
Devahuti.
Devahuti. And there also it was described that Vishrambhena Atma Shauchena Gauravena Damena Cha Shushusha Madhuraya Chabho. She served her husband with lots of respect and intimacy, with sense control, with loving, very affectionate words. And later, Narada Muni tells her that although you have no experience of these realities, but I will give you everything. That's the power of the serving great soul. And there, later, Devahuti, she says, Saham Bhagavata Nunam Vanchita Mayaya Dridam Yattam Vimuktidam Prapya Namumuksheya Bandhanaha. I am solidly cheated by the illusory energy of the Lord. I got your association, but I didn't inquire about self-realization. So that's what Prabhupada is writing here. If a woman is fortunate enough to be the wife of a pure devotee, she can serve her husband without any desire for sense gratification, and she'll get the same benefit as her husband. Similarly, the disciple remains serving the Guru until attaining perfection. The disciple should never feel that now I should start my own thing, why I should serve my spiritual master. If we are getting a chance to serve the spiritual master, we should never leave the chance. So that is what Vaidarbhi was doing. Chiravasa vratakshama veni bhuta shiroruha vabhav upapatim shanta shikha shantam ivanalam.
The daughter of King Vidarbha wore old garments and she was lean and thin because her vows of austerity. Since she did not arrange her hair, it became entangled and twisted in locks. Although she remained always near her husband, she was as silent and unagitated as the flame of an undisturbed fire.
Okay. So she was continuously serving her husband. She didn't take care of her body, her own self. She was a daughter of a king. But now she was completely engaged in serving her husband. She became very thin and lean, pratakshama, because of the austerity she was undertaking. She became very lean and thin, and she didn't care to arrange for her hair. She was always near her husband, but was silent. That is very important. She was not agitated that, oh, why he is not talking to me, why he is not giving me time. Why he's not giving me whatever I need? Silent, unagitated. Because she understood that my husband is absorbed in the service of the Lord, so I should silently support her, support him. Prabhupada writes, when one begins to burn firewood, there is smoke and agitation in the beginning. Powerful example Prabhupada is like writing. Because the example is unagitated as the flame of an undisturbed fire. So in the beginning, there is smoke, there is agitation. Although there are so many disturbances in the beginning, once the fire is completely set, the firewood burns steadily. When both husband and wife follow the principles of austerity, they remain silent and not agitated by sex impulses. At such time, husband and wife benefit spiritually. One can attain this stage of life by giving up completely a luxurious mode of life. Okay, so then Prabhupada writes about Upapatim. The word used here is Upapatim, just like Upanishad. Upanishad means to sit near the spiritual master. Upapatim, she was always near her husband. That means she was ready to serve whenever he wanted. It was not that pata nahi kahan chali gayi, abhi to ye chahiye tha, wo chahiye tha, where is she? She was always there, ready for serving her husband. Okay. And then Prabhupada writes some of the details about Vanaprastha life. Ajanati priyatamam yado paratamangana susthirasanam asadya yatha purvam upacharat. Translation.
The daughter of the king Vidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture until she would ascertain that he had passed away from the body.
So he was so absorbed in serving the Lord, he entered Samadhi one day, and she didn't even realize when her husband left this world. Prabhupada writes, during the previous paragraph, Prabhupada writes, last line is very wonderful. Prabhupada writes, if the disciples remain steady in the service of the spiritual master, he need no longer fear falling down into the clutches of Maya. So the more one is absorbed in service of the Guru, the more he is protected from the distractions of the world. Because it is not so easy to be near Guru. One has to be fire, to be with fire. Otherwise, we'll get burned. That's why it is described, one should be very careful while associating with spiritual masters. Because they are very intense. And if we are not sufficiently intense and in line and in tune with the desires of the Guru, we may get burnt. We may get irritated, frustrated, because the desire of the spiritual master to serve is unlimited. Spiritual master can keep on serving whole day, whole night, 24 hours. So if we are not in that caliber, we may get really frustrated because no time to even take rest. But if we have that right mood, then spiritual master empowers us. And that's what we can see in the life of the disciples of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was so very intense, always working, always serving Krishna. But the disciples, they wanted to serve him. That was their qualification. One time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was undergoing a surgery, and Prabhupada didn't want him to get operated in India, but somehow he could not communicate on time, and he was already in the OT. Then he got operated, he came out, and then Prabhupada was there, and he told Prabhupada, when I was under anesthesia, I was unconscious, I saw a dream. And I saw that You are called by all the acharyas. Rupa Goswami was there, Sanatana Goswami was there, all the great acharyas were there, and they were asking for report. What is your report about preaching? And Prabhupada, you replied that I have seen the people of this Kali Yuga, they have no qualification. They can't do any tapasya, they can't focus, but they have one qualification. All these disciples, they have one qualification. They do whatever I say. That is their qualification. So that is a qualification of a disciple. To follow what spiritual master says. Then there is no need of falling down. Now in this verse, Prabhupada writes, it appears that Queen did not even talk to her husband while serving. She would simply perform her prescribed duties without talk. Thus, she did not stop rendering service until she could ascertain that her husband had passed away from the body. So that is the ideal disciple. Ideal disciple does not make himself so prominent that, oh Gurudev, I am here for your service. Our disciple is very, very like a salt. He will do the seva, serve the Guru, and not even present in front. That is ideal disciple. Because a disciple doesn't want any recognition for his services. He is happy getting a chance to serve. The chance to serve is itself a great privilege. Durapa hyalapatapasa seva vaikuntha vartmasu yatropagiyate nityam deva devo janardana. The chance to serve the pure devotees of the Lord is a rare fortune. So a disciple is happy in that. Yada nopalabhe tangra ushmanam patyurarchati asid samvigna hridaya yuta bhrashta mrigi yatha.
Hare Krishna. While she was serving her husband by massaging his legs, she could feel that his feet were no longer warm and could thus understand that he had already passed from the body. She felt great anxiety upon being left alone, bereft of her husband's company. She felt exactly as the deer feels upon being separated from its mate. Hare Krishna.
So it seems that he was just sitting in samadhi and he left his body. Okay. Now she realized that my husband is gone. She is alone in the forest. She started lamenting. Three verses. Atmanam shochati deenam abandhum viklava shubhi stanav asichya vipine suswaram prarurodasa.
Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears, which soaked her breast and crying very loudly.
Prabhupada writes, when the mortal body of the spiritual master expires, his disciples should cry exactly like as the queen cries when the king leaves his body. The disciple and spiritual master are never separated because the spiritual master always keeps company with his disciple as long as the disciple follows strictly the instructions. Srila Prabhupada would always say this, I am never separated from my Guru because I am following the instructions of my Guru. That's the way one can keep company of the spiritual master always. This is called association of Vani. Vapu association, that is rare. It is a privilege of only few rare disciples. Not everybody can get association of the Vapu, but everybody can get association of Vani. That is available for everyone. Nobody can say, oh, I am not getting association of the spiritual master. And especially in the today's scenario of ISKCON, where it is very difficult to get physical association of Guru. In previous times, the Gurukuls were there, only few disciples would be there, and the Guru would be able to connect to each and every disciple. Now the situation is not like that. So therefore, what to do in this situation? In this situation, a disciple should take shelter of the instructions of the spiritual master. One time, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was telling that sometimes the disciples they tell that I'm not giving association as I was able to give earlier. But all my association I am giving in my lectures. The instructions, personal, I want personal instructions. Sometimes some devotees, they feel, I want personal instruction from my spiritual master. All the personal instructions are there in public lectures. Maharaj was saying that. You have to be in tune with your spiritual master by constant prayers. And whatever is needed will be revealed to us through the lectures. If we get personal association, that is wonderful. But most of us will not get personal association. And even if we are getting personal association, how long we can get personal association? As Malayadhwaj he left, the spiritual masters will leave us one day for sure. So we can keep on getting the association, just like Prabhupada would be intensely praying to his guru. He would pray to Rupa Goswami, one of the Goswamis of Radha Damodar temple. He would share later that in the night we would hear somebody crying. And one day he went to see who is crying. And he saw Prabhupada in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, he is brooming the samadhi, around the samadhi of Rupa Goswami and praying loudly, crying for empowerment. So that is what our disciple should do. Prabhupada writes, as long as spiritual master is physically present, the disciple should serve the physical body. When spiritual master is no longer physically existing, disciple should serve the instructions. She is lamenting. Who will protect me from now on? She became very grief-stricken. So a disciple should always feel that, oh, now if my guru is gone, how will I stay in this material world? Who will instruct me? But what a disciple should do later, that is also described in further verses. So she started lamenting. Uttishta uttishta rajarshe imam udadi mekhala tasyobhya shatra bandubhyo bibhyatim patumarhasi.
Oh, best of kings, please get up. Get up. Just see this world surrounded by water, infested with rogues and so-called kings. This world is very much afraid, and it is your duty to protect her.
Yeah. Whenever an acharya comes, following the orders of the Lord, he establishes dharma. When the Lord comes, when the disciple comes, acharya comes, that dharma is established. Religion means abiding by the orders of the Lord. And the spiritual master, he spreads the orders of the Lord. One executes the religious principles by rendering devotional service, specifically the 9 items. Unfortunately, when the acharya disappears, the rogues and non-devotees take advantage and immediately begin to introduce unauthorized principles in the name of so-called swamis, yogis, etc. So that's what she's saying, that, oh, if you are gone now, who will protect the world? And it is always seen when a great powerful acharya leaves, there is some turmoil, there is some chaos. And it is the glory of Srila Prabhupada. He established such a wonderful institution that even after his departure, the society has not got disrupted. It has increased. That is the vision of a great soul. They establish a legacy. A leader is not known by whatever things he accomplishes. That's, of course, that's the credit of the leader. But the leader also makes the legacy. He creates the legacy. He inspires more leaders. Leader is not just the one who is great in doing things. The leader is the one who creates leaders. And Srila Prabhupada, he has done that. He has created such wonderful legacy. Prabhupada writes, human life is meant for executing the orders of the Lord. Manmanabha madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyante pratijani priyosi me. The Acharya, the authorized representative of the Lord, establishes the principles of worshipping the Lord, Madhyaji, Mam Namaskuru. But when it disappears, things once again become disordered. The perfect disciples of the Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions. One time, Prabhupada was talking to some of the life members, and some disciples were also there. Bhakti Charu Maharaj was there. And they said, some big people, some big industrialist, they said, Swamiji, we want to talk to you in private. Prabhupada said, all these are my disciples. They're very close to me. You can speak anything, whatever you. No, Swamiji, we want to talk to you only privately. So Prabhupada said, okay. And he told all of you, please leave. But while leaving, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, I think it was Bhakti Charu Maharaj, switched on the tape recorder and then left. And later they could hear what was the conversation. And this devotee, this person was asking, Swamiji, after you leave, who will become the Acharya in ISKCON? This ISKCON will belong to whom? Prabhupada said, this ISKCON will belong to all my disciples. No, not one person. So that was the legacy Prabhupada has created. Prabhupada has created such a wonderful institution where there are further leaders who are following the principles given in scriptures. And they are trying to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions of spiritual masters. And in due course of time, we will see the situations going down, the standards going down. That's the default setting of this world. We'll see the leaders, maybe they may do something which are not expected of them. It is our responsibility to ourselves follow the ideal principles given by Srila Prabhupada. Because the default setting of this world is, it will go down. The standards will go down. This is a spiritual institution in the material world. So by default, some things will be there, some politics will happen, some discrepancies will enter our institution. So at our level, whatever we can, we should try to keep this institution a pure institution. As Prabhupada writes, the perfect disciples of Acharya try to relieve the situation by sincerely following the instructions. At present, entire world is afraid of rogues and non-devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness movement is started to save the world. She was crying, lamenting. She fell at the feet of her husband. Evam vilapanti bala vipine anugatapatim Vitata padayor bhartu rudatyash ashrunya avartayat.
The most obedient wife thus fell at the feet of her dead husband
and began to cry pitifully
in that solitary forest.
The tears rolled down from her eyes.
She began crying, tears rolling down her eyes, and she decided that she will also die along with her husband. What she'll do alone in the forest. Chitim darumayim chitva tasyam patyukalevaram adipya chanumarane vilapanti manodadhe anumaran. Yeah.
She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband.
Sahamaranam. Prabhupada talks about Madri and Kunti, or how Madri decided that she would die, she would enter the fire, and Kunti, you please take care, because Madri told, I cannot see my sons and your sons with same vision. I will make some partiality, but you are not like this. I know that you will take care of my sons like your sons. So let me die, let me enter fire, and you just stay here, tolerate the separation from your husband. Prabhupada writes about that. And then Prabhupada says, even as late as 1936, we saw a devoted wife voluntarily enter the fire of her husband. Prabhupada writes a very strong purport in next paragraph. What it means for a disciple. A devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. That is very, very important for a disciple. Should die rather than failing to execute. All our acharyas, they are only working for this one purpose, so that we can become successful in our lives. All the endeavors which they are taking, Srila Prabhupada has taken, all our seniors are taking, so much Lakshmi is being spent on the festivals and yatras. For what? So that we can become a pure devotee. That is the only thing. So if we see from that perspective, this is the highest welfare activity anybody can do. So we should also be grateful and ready to follow whatever is told, whatever is instructed by the spiritual master. Prabhupada writes, as the Supreme Lord comes down on this earth to establish the principles, the spiritual master also comes. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should die along with the spiritual master. In other words, in order to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. And Prabhupada, he did in his own life, and he inspired that in his disciples. And many of the grand disciples are also doing the same. They are risking their life. We have seen Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhakti Tirth Maharaj going to the KGB and China and Russia and distributing books at the cost of their lives, risking their lives practically. Prabhupada himself did it, risked his life at the age of 70 years. So that's the role of a disciple. Prabhupada is telling everybody to do. execute the will of the spiritual master, and prepare to lay down one's life. Chakravarti Thakur writes, she placed the body on the pyre and lit ablaze with fire. Having performed the last rites for his guru, the disciple then decides in his mind, separated from the feet of my guru, I cannot maintain my life. My body is burning in the fire of lamentation and remembering his qualities. I cannot put my energy in the bhakti of hearing and chanting that he taught, therefore I will die today. So that is the desperation of a disciple to follow the instruction of the guru. What's the use of this life if I am not able to follow the instructions of my spiritual master? That is the eagerness of a disciple to follow the instructions of guru at the cost of his own life. Okay, so now, as she is about to enter the funeral pyre, the unknown friend appears, the avigyata. So next 15 verses, so now 51 to 65.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Sorry. Prabhuji, in the second paragraph, Prabhupada writes, this indicates that a devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. So what he is meant here, like Madri or like Kunti?
See, these things cannot be practically done in today's day and age. Devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way, that means following the same activity like Madri, Kunti, not possible now. So at least we can understand the mood of this, the mood behind this act. That the wives were so very attached to the husband that they could not live without him. That is the mood, that is the attachment, that's the love which the wife had for their husbands. So the mood can be always be taken, that one should always be grateful and devoted, and of course, husband is like Malaya Dhwaja. Husband is like the great King Pandu. So that is the mood a wife can carry. Externally, whatever Kunti, whatever Madri did, it is not recommended also. But the mood can be followed by everyone. The mood of complete helplessness in separation from the husband, that love is always the guiding force. It is not about the external actions. Externals will change according to time, place, circumstances. But the mood behind the actions, that should be taken always. Sahamaran means I cannot stay separate from my husband. I'm so very attached to my husband. In today's day and age, it may not be possible. But the mood is love, attachment. And how can I serve the beloved in this situation? Love means service. So the higher call is service. How can I serve my husband now? What is the best thing for me to do now? So that can always be done. That is what we can understand from this. Okay, so now, Avigyata, that is the Supreme Lord, he arrives there as a Brahman. Tatra purvatara kaschit sakha brahmana atmavan santavyan valguna samna tamaha rudatim prabho.
Who was
Krishna, my dear king, one Brahman who was an old friend of King Puranchanda came to that place and began to pacify the king with sweet words.
Okay. So some devotees have put their camera off. I am okay, but everybody should read so that I can understand that you all are there. Yeah. Okay, translation. Yes. So now a Brahmana who was an old friend of Puranjan, this old friend was introduced right in the beginning of the story of Puranjan. This Puranjan had a avigyata, that is unknown friend. The activities of this friend was not known to everyone. What does that mean? Can anyone tell me? Why it is described that in the previous chapter that the activities of this friend was unknown? How it translates in spiritual sense? Anyone remembers? That means nobody knows how the super soul is working in the heart, how he is guiding everyone, how he is sanctioning. Nobody knows. Upadrashtanumanta, we have heard this, but when the super soul sanctions, what he sanctions, what he doesn't sanction, when he works, that doesn't know, that no one knows. Okay, so Prabhupada writes about Paramatma. Dua Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya, the two birds sitting on the tree. The Lord is always eager to have the living entity come home back to Godhead. He's more eager to take us back than we are eager to go back. That is how the spiritual master, that's how the Paramatma is always working. He's always guiding. Maharaura Haite Korile Tomara Uddhar Prepara Samudra Krishna Gambhira Apar. Gambhir, he's gravely working to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls. And as soon as he sees an opportunity, he tries to bring the living entities back. Whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment and turn his face towards the Lord and surrender. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, wow, this is a very, very wonderful golden statement of Prabhupada. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if somebody is very determined that I have to execute the mission of my Guru, that is as good as seeing the Supreme Lord. That resolution is the resolution to see the Lord. I want to see the Lord. That is the same as saying I want to fulfill the mission of my Guru. That is same. Vani Seva. That is Vaivasayatmika Buddhi. This verse is very, very dear to Prabhupada. Because this one verse changed the life of Prabhupada. And he became so very absorbed in executing the order of his spiritual master. One should serve the words of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Lord. So that is the power of the spiritual master's instruction. If one is executing the orders, one sees the Lord. And then Prabhupada writes, why Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, appeared before the queen as a Brahmana? Why didn't he appear as Krishna himself? Somebody may ask question, why he didn't appear as Krishna himself? Why he has to appear in a disguised form? Chakravarti Thakur writes, unless one is very highly elevated in loving the Supreme Lord, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles initiated by the spiritual master, somehow or other, he is in association with the Lord. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. So that is the power of the spiritual master. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the Lord, of the Guru, then he will see the Lord. That determination to follow the instructions of Guru is the determination to see the Lord. And that's the way one can see the Lord. The disciple may not see the Lord immediately as he is. One can see the Lord in the instructions of the spiritual master. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the personality of Godhead by Vani or Vapu. This is the only secret of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That there is no other secret. If one can follow the instructions of spiritual master, we may be thinking, well, my spiritual master is not giving any instruction to me directly. Which instruction should I follow? The basic instructions which are given by the spiritual master, that we should strive to follow. We should not hanker to get some high esoteric personal instructions from Guru and then only I'll follow. Whatever the basic instructions the Guru is giving in his classes about our sadhana, bhakti, our practices, our relationship with other devotees, we should strive to follow that. That will benefit us. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of spiritual master, he will see the Lord without difficulty. And Prabhupada quotes this verse by by Billu Mangal Thakur, where he's saying, "Oh my Lord, after I am engaged in your devotional service, I am perceiving your presence everywhere. Daivena na falati devya kishora murti. I am seeing your presence everywhere. Sthavara jangama dekhi na dekhi tara murti sarvatra hoye nij ishta deva spurti." The pure devotee of the Lord can see Krishna everywhere. And liberation is standing in front at the doorsteps with folded hands, ready to serve me. So a person who is advanced in devotional service, he can very easily see the Lord. Prabhupada writes. Now this Brahmana, he starts speaking. Brahmana uvacha katvam kasyasi ko vayam shayano yasya shochasi janasi kim sakhayam mam vena yena agre vachachartha vichachartha.
The Brahmana inquired as follows: Who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me.
Okay, so now Supreme Lord, he is also eager. When he sees us lamenting for so many things of this world, he is also saying, "Arey Baba, you didn't recognize me. I am always helping you. You consulted me in the past, but now you are not consulting me. You are not even recognizing me." Prabhupada writes, when a person's relative dies, the renunciation is automatically visible. Prabhupada would describe there are various types of renunciation. Yukta Vairagya, Palgu Vairagya, Markata Vairagya, Samshan Vairagya. Samshan Vairagya means if somebody dies, relatives are in the crematorium, naturally they'll feel some renounced, some feelings of renunciation will come. What's the use of this word? Thab moh maya. सबको ऐसा ही आना है. What is the use of doing all the things? And as they go out of the crematorium, what's the latest happening in the world? So in the crematorium, the renunciation is visible. Consultation with the super soul seated within everyone's heart is possible only when one is completely free from the contamination of material attachment. First, we'll see Chakravarti Thakur's purport. Who is this lying here? He's my guru. In this story, he's my husband. On answering that, next question is, do you know me? You are a Brahmana. Yes. Who am I? You are my friend. How did I become your friend? You wandered with me before the creation. We are always with the Lord. And we were wandering and doing all the wonderful pastimes with the Lord, experiencing happiness in association of the Lord. And that's what this Brahmana is saying. You are with me. You consulted me in the past. Along with me, you remain experiencing happiness in my association. You are experiencing such happiness in my association. Now you have left me. Prabhupada writes, Paramatma is always a Chaitya Guru, and he comes before one externally as instructor and initiating spiritual master, and within Chaitya Guru. Naivopayantyapachitiം kavayastamesha brahmayushapi kritam ruddhamudam smarantah antarbahisthanubhritam ashubham vidhunvannacharya chaitya vapusha swagatim vyanakti. It is described by Brahmaji that one can never express one's gratitude sufficiently to the Lord. Whatever he is doing for us, he is purifying all the conditioned souls. Antarbahisthanubhritam ashubham vidhunvan. He is purifying Ashubha. Antar, Chaitya Vapusha, and externally Acharya. So Prabhupada writes, just as one gets a chance to consult with the Paramatma within the heart, one also gets a chance to see him actually situated before him. Then one can take instructions from the super soul directly. This is the duty of the pure devotee. When Prabhupada writes all these things, he is a pure devotee of the Lord. For him, he's seeing all this. So he's writing. Just as one gets chance to consult the Paramatma within his heart. Just is a big word. Just as we baat kar lete hain, one can see a Lord also. But this is possible for everyone. And that is what Prabhupada expects every of his disciple to experience. That is the desire of a spiritual master, to see his disciples experiencing what he is experiencing and even go ahead of them. That's what Prabhupada would say a few times, that he writes in that purport of Dhruv Maharaj, right? And Suniti, he asks, how can I go without my mother? And the Nanda Sunan, they say that, oh, Suniti is already there going ahead in front of you. So Prabhupada writes that someday, if some of my disciples become a pure devotee, I also have some hope. So that is what all these spiritual masters, they expect from their disciples, to become pure souls. Then one can take instructions from the super soul directly. They see the Lord inside and they see the Lord outside. They take instructions from the super soul directly, because Prabhupada was doing it. Every night he would sit and take dictation from Krishna. How many times we have heard this? As reporter is asking Prabhupada, Swamiji, how have you written these books? Prabhupada would say that, oh, Krishna comes and he speaks and I take the dictation. So this person is getting confused what he's saying. So one disciple is trying to give some rational answer. What Swamiji means is, what Prabhupada means is, Krishna inspires him and he writes. Prabhupada says, which rascal is saying this? I am saying that Krishna is speaking to me and I am writing. Who are you? Why are you interpreting? So that was Prabhupada. Prabhupada could talk to Krishna. He could see Krishna. One time, one of the disciples, I think Sudama Prabhu, he was serving Prabhupada and as he entered Prabhupada's room, he saw Prabhupada looking out through the window in the garden and he's crying tears. So he understood that Prabhupada is having some intimate exchanges with the Lord. He quickly left. And I think Govinda Mataji or Yamuna Mataji or somebody was there. And she asked, what happened? Said, Prabhupada is in ecstasy. Prabhupada is crying tears. So she said, he is having an intimate relation with Krishna. Don't worry. After some time again he went. Still Prabhupada was crying. And then he was leaving. Again this disciple was leaving. So Prabhupada noticed and he said, why are you leaving? He said, Prabhupada, I didn't want to disturb you. I think you are having some exchanges with Krishna. Prabhupada told him, yes, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I can see Krishna there in the garden. And that's why I'm so very grateful. So hearing this devotee started crying. Prabhupada said, why are you crying? He said, Prabhupada, I am so fortunate. I have a spiritual master like you who is seeing Krishna. So that's how. So then Prabhupada said, it's all by the mercy of my spiritual master. So Prabhupada is seeing Krishna. He is talking to Krishna. So this is what is in store for a sadhaka. And that's what Prabhupada is writing all this. Just as one gets chance to consult with Paramatma within the heart. मतलब ये पहला ही लाइन डिफिकल्ट है, सेकंड वाला तो मतलब पूछने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. One also gets a chance to see him actually situated before him. Consulting Paramatma is difficult, and what to speak of seeing Krishna. But Prabhupada and pure devotees, they are seeing it. This is the duty of a pure devotee. When the Brahman asked a woman who was the man lying on the floor, she answered he was her spiritual master. And she was perplexed about what to do in his absence. Now, this is very important. When the spiritual master leaves, there is always perplexity, confusions, disturbances. What to do in those situations? Prabhupada writes, at such a time, the super soul immediately appears, provided the devotee is purified in heart by following the directions of the spiritual master. A sincere devotee who follows the instructions of the spiritual master certainly gets direct instructions from his heart, from the super soul. Thus, a sincere devotee is always helped directly or indirectly by the spiritual master and the super soul. So it is the duty of every sincere devotee. Prabhupada never mentions, he mentions many times pure devotee. Here he is writing a sincere devotee. A sincere devotee who follows the instructions certainly gets instructions from his heart, from the super soul. Sincere devotee, that means I'm not there to cheat. I really want to serve. No ulterior motives. Radhanath Swami Maharaj makes this statement many times. Sincere, serious, and without ulterior motives. Then for sure, if we are praying to Krishna, then we will always be directed by the Lord who is within us, Paramatma. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado, Prabhupada writes. Okay. Api smarasi chatmanam avigyata sakham sakhe hitva mam padam anvichan bhauma roga rato gataha. Other devotees, can they speak? Read some of the translations.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. The Brahmanas continued, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, and you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend. Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted the position as enjoyer of the material world. Hare Krishna.
Avigyata sakham, O Sakhe, my friend, you remember you had a very intimate friend. So this is a wonderful desire of the Lord, and the heart of the Lord is revealed here. How the Lord feels when a living entity goes away from him, and how he is so very happy when the living entity turns to him. Whenever the Lord gets a chance to bring a conditioned soul back to him, he never leaves a chance. Chakravarti Thakur writes. So in the previous verse, he's asking so many questions. Who is this person lying here? And do you know me? He said, I'm your friend. How did you become my friend? I become your friend. So in the next verse, he says, I do not know anything. He says, though you do not recognize me, do you remember yourself who had a friend you did not recognize? Avigyata sakham. Someone was your friend but unrecognized by you. Unknown friend. Now, very interestingly, Chakravarti Thakur goes into the detail of the wordings here. Sakhe is used, not sakhi. Sakhe is a masculine form. Avigyata sakham sakhe. Api smarasi chatmanam avigyata sakham sakhe. So this Brahmana, he's speaking, addressing Vaidarbhi in sakhe, masculine, because now she was in the women body. This indicates that the Lord wants to make her remember his previous life as a man. So Vaidarbhi may say, you remember, I cannot remember all this. You please remember all these things. Then this Brahmana says, giving me up. See, whenever in a Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, you see these inverted commas, that is the another person speaking. So here, this, you please remember, I cannot. That is Vaidarbhi speaking. I do not know anything here. That is Vaidarbhi speaking. So this Brahmana speaks, giving me up, you became attached to enjoying. That means, Krishna bhuliya jiva bhogavancha kare, nikatastan maya tare jhapatiya dhare. That is what is happening here. He's trying to remind, you remember me? You were with me. Now you forgot, you left me. Hamsavaham tvam chatam charya sakhayo manasayono abhutam antaravoka sahasra parivatsaran. Now he is giving a example.
My dear gentle friend, both you and I are exactly like two swans. We live together in the same hut, which is just like the Mansa lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home.
Okay, so now can anyone tell me what is the meaning from this, the spiritual meaning? Both you and I are the two swans. We are living together in the same heart, Manasa lake, and we are away from the eternal from the home. What is the original home he is talking about? That is the
Original home, Gorakhdham.
yeah, the spiritual world. And for many thousands of
Spiritual world.
years, since time immemorial, we have left the Lord and came here in this material world. The Lord has not left us. He is there in the heart with everyone. Chakravarti Thakur writes, we were born as two birds in Manas Lake. That means in the heart. We are staying there. Chakravarti Thakur writes, the original home of the Lord and the living entity is the spiritual world. They both live peacefully there. Vasanti yatra purushaha sarve vaikuntha murtayaha ye animitta nimittena dharmena aradhyam harin. Third canto, chapter, description of the spiritual world. They are all the living beings. They are spiritual. They have four hands. They are always serving the Lord. Dharmena aradhyam harin. They remain engaged in service. Animitta nimittena dharmena aradhyam. They are always engaged in serving the Lord. And they both share a blissful life. However, when the living entity wants to enjoy, he falls down. But Lord never leaves him. He remains with the conditioned souls as the intimate friend. Okay, now, next verse. Sattvam vihaya mam bandho gato gramya matirmahim charan padam adrakshi kayachin nirmitam striya.
Hare Krishna. My dear friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic and not seeing me. You have been traveling in different forms throughout this material world, which was created by some woman. Hare Krishna.
So now, Supreme Lord is reminding her that you and me, we have lived it together for many, many thousands of years away from our eternal home. You left me, you have become more and more materialistic and traveling in various forms. That means a living entity goes to various species of life, leaving the Lord. Brahmanda Brahmite, and he is wandering. Shutparito yathadinam sarmeyam griham griham charan vindanti yaddinam dandam odanam evava. Just like a dog, sometimes beaten, sometimes he gets some food to eat. Yatha kamashayo jiva bhute shucchavacheshvanu upari adho madheva yati dishtam priya priyam. Similarly, a living entity is wandering in this material world, sometimes in upper, sometimes middle, sometimes lower planetary systems. That is what is described here. Pancharamam navadvaram ekapalam trikoshtakam shatkulam pancha vimanam vipanam pancha prakriti stridhavam.
Krishna, in that city, the material body, where, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and one woman who is Lord of the house. Hare Krishna.
Now, this Brahmana, he starts describing the allegory again. He said in the previous 58, 56 actually, yeah. You are wandering in various species and then you found a city. That city is the city of material body. 5 gardens means the 5 sense objects. The 9 gates, the 9 holes. 1 protector, that is the prana. 3 apartments. 3 apartments are earth, water, and fire. 6 families, the 5 Gyanendriyas and the mind. 6 families. 5 stores, the 5 markets. That means these are the five sense, are the five karmendriyas, stores, and five material elements. The five powers of the state are the five gross elements. And the women, who is the women, who is the lord of this house? The intelligence. That is the lord of the house. And the master is the husband of the intelligence. That is, we have heard this story, entire story. We have heard this Puranjan and his wife. He continues. Panchendriyartha arama dvara prana navaprabho tejo bannani kosthani kulam indriya sangraha.
Hare Krishna. My dear friend, the five objects of senses and sense of enjoyment and the protector is the life here, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients: fire, water, and earth.
Just a minute.
The 6 families. Yes. Hare Krishna. The 6 families are the aggregate total of this mind and 5 senses. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So now the Avigyata, the Brahmana, he continues the allegory of the 5 gardens or the 5 objects of sense enjoyment. The protector is the life air. He explains that himself. And the 3 apartments are the chief ingredients of this body: earth, water, fire. All this. Okay. Vipanastu kriya shakti bhuta prakriti ravyaya shaktyathesha puma statra pravishto navabuddhyate.
The 5 stores are the 5 working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined forces of the 5 elements, which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge.
Avabuddhyate, na avabuddhyate. The bodily conception of life is prominent because of the ignorance. He is hidden. He is there in this body, but he is hidden. He doesn't know his real position because of the ignorance. Intelligence is described in feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in all activities, she is described as controller, adhisha. So all our activities are governed by our materially contaminated intelligence, which is working to satisfy the ego that I am the enjoyer. Okay, so Prabhupada describes some of the details. Chakravarti Thakur writes, the 5 gross elements are the cause, the prakriti. Entering that place, a man becomes bewildered. What is the energy? It is intelligence. He is the controller of intelligence. This is the explanation of the man and wife, Stri Dhavakam. Now, as the living entity enters this body, made up of so many things, starts working in this material world and gets entangled. This entanglement is described in the 59th verse. Tasmin svam ramaya sprishto ramamano ashrutasmritihi tatsangat idrishim prapto dasham papiyasim prabho.
My dear
My
friend,
dear friend,
when you
when
enter such a body along with the woman for material desires, you become overly absorbed in the sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to your material concepts, you are placed in various measurable conditions.
Okay, so now the Lord is telling you forgot me, engaged in all the materialistic activities. Now just see what is happening to you. You are miserable. Nityabadda Krishna hoite nitya bahirmukh nitya samsar bhuje narakadi dukh. He turns his face away from the Lord. He suffers. Kam krodera sei doshe maya pishachi dandakore tare adhyatmikadi tapatraye tare jari mare. Because of the fault of turning away from the Lord, Maya Devi punishes him. Kama krodhera dasahaya taralati khaye bhramite bhramite yadi sadhu vaidyapaye. Being kicked by the material energy again and again, if by some good fortune a living entity gets a devotee, then he gets freed from the entanglement. Okay, so this Brahmana is telling you engaged in so many sinful activities and you are suffering in this material world. Just see, you are getting absorbed in so many difficult situations. Natvam vidarbha duhita nayam veera surittava napatistam puranjanya ruddho navamukheya. Now he is revealing the actual position of the living entity. Yeah.
Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man, Malayadvaja, your well-wishing husband, nor were you the actual husband of Puranjani. You were simply captivated in this body of 9 gates.
In so many species of life, we get so many positions, upadhis. Even in this body, we have so many designations. And that's why we are thinking they are mine. But just like Bhagavatam says, in the river, the straws, they come together, they stay for some time and they get separated. Similarly, we in this material world, we are born in certain family, we stay and get separated. That is the situation of this material world. Prabhupada paraphrases that, writes that in the purport. As the water passes down a river, many straws are carried from the shore. They come together, again tossed this way and that way. That is the situation of this material world. And Prabhupada quotes this bhajan by Bhakti Thakur. Mite mayar bashe hachcho veshe hachcho habu dubu bhai jiva krishna da se vishwas korle to ar dukkha nai. We are suffering in this material world. Only one thing is missing. If we understand that I am Krishna's das, then all the distress is gone. Because he is our real well-wisher. He is Suridam. So she is saying, Are Baba, what should I know then? You are saying I got entangled in this body and then I am suffering because of my sinful activities. If I have never heard any knowledge about the self, then you should tell me what should I know. So he is telling what she should know. He is informing you are not the daughter of any person, any common person. You are Chit Shakti. You belong to me. This hero is not your friend. I am your friend. I am Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. In this form, I have become your guru and have taught devotion. In this way, I have acted as your friend. You were blockaded in the city with 9 gates. You are not the husband of Puranjani in your past life. You are the jiva covered with ignorance. So that is the actual understanding of a living entity. She may say, well, if all this is true, why I am not aware of all this? So Lord reveals the reason why we forget all these. Maya hiesha maya srishta yat pumamsam striyam satim manyase no bhayam yadvai hamso pashya vayorgatim. Translation.
Hare Krishna. Sometimes you think yourself a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a neutral eunuch. This is all because of the body, which is created by the illusory energy. This illusory energy is my potency, and actually, both of us, you and I, are pure spiritual identities. Now, just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual positions. Hare Krishna.
So it is all because of my illusory energy. But you forgot all this. Now you are thinking you are a man or a woman or a eunuch. It is all because of external material identifications. In the second canto, when Brahmaji is telling Narad Muni about the real Supreme Lord, because Narad Muni asked, are you the Supreme? It seems you are the Supreme. You are creating, maintaining, destroying. I think you are the Lord. Brahmaji says, actually, Srijyam Srijami Srishtoham. First of all, he says, Samyak Karunikasyeedam Vatsate Vichikitsitam Yadaham Chodita Saumya Bhagavad Virya Darshane. I am so very grateful to you. You have shown extreme mercy to me. You have given me a chance to speak about the Lord. I am not the controller. I am not the creator. Krishna is the creator. I am just creating what is already created. And you know what? People who are bewildered by Maya, they think that I am creator. How to understand who is bewildered, who is not bewildered? Just see their words. They always speak in terms of I and mine. Vilajyamanaya yasya sthatum ikshapate amuya vimohita vikathante mama aham iti duradhiya. Mama aham, the illusory energy of the Lord, which is covering everyone. She stands behind the Lord, ashamed. And people are bewildered, they think, I am the creator. Mama aham. So this is the problem. Prabhupada writes, the factual position of both the Lord and the living entity is qualitatively one. They are one. They are both living entities. And learned people, they do not find any difference. They understand both are part and parcel. Mamai vamsho jiva loke. And Prabhupada writes, the living entity is Sanatana, and Sanatan Dharma of the living entity is to serve the Sanatan Lord. Aham bhavan na chanyastvam tvam evaham vichakshvabho na naupashyanti kavayas chidram jatu managapi.
My dear friend, I, the super soul, and you, the individual soul, are not different in quality, for we are both spiritual. In fact, my dear friend, you are qualitatively not different from me in your constitutional position. Just try to consider this subject. Those who are actually advanced scholars, who are in knowledge, do not find any qualitative difference between you and me.
Okay, so Lord is describing the qualitative oneness. Lord is Satchidananda, we are also Satchidananda. I am Paramatma and you are Jiva. You are not different from me, being a conscious entity. So she may say, why are you saying such an intolerable thing? Lord says, my pure devotee, receive with discretion, without anger, that I am same in quality. She says, no, I am your servant and you are my master. Will not others criticize you when you say we are also non-different? The Lord says, no. The wise, they never see a fault in our relation. The Lord and the living entity, they are all qualitatively same. Only foolish see the contradiction. What is the difference yet? He describes in the next verse. Yatha purusha atmanam ekam madarsha chakshusho vidha bhutam aviksheta tathaivantaramavayo.
As a person sees the reflection of his body in a mirror to be one with himself and non-different, whereas others actually see two bodies. So in our material condition, in which the living being is affected and yet not affected, there is a difference between God and
So there is quantitative difference. Arjun asks Krishna, both you and me have taken birth together. You are saying you taught this knowledge to sun god. How is this possible? Krishna says, yes, both you and me have taken birth. You forgot all of them, I remember. And he says, what is that? 4.6. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. I am bhutanam ishwar. I am the controller of all beings. You are not. Qualitatively, we may be one, but of course, that also is not there always. We cannot become qualitatively one with the Lord completely. Almost 50 qualities. Quantitative, it is huge difference. Lord is Vibhu, we are Anu. So Prabhupada writes about Mayavadis, how they understand it differently. Although he and the Supreme Lord are one in quality, the living entity is prone to forget. Supreme Lord never forgets. That's what Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna tells you have forgotten. Krishna tells you have forgotten. Bahuni me vatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha. I remember everything, you don't remember. That's the proof that I am Lord. This is difference between lipt and alipta. The Lord is uncontaminated. He never forgets. We forget. He is Kshetragya of all the bodies. I am Kshetragya of only my body. Okay, Prabhupada quotes another verse from 3rd canto. Yathol mukad visphulingad dhumad vapi sambhavat apyatmat me vevnabhimatad yathagni prathak ulmukat. Just like fire has different features, there is flame, the spark, and the smoke. Agni, prathak ulmukat. There are different features. Similarly, these are one in quality. You may call flame also fire, spark also fire, smoke also fire, but there is difference in quantity. Similarly, the living being, you may say is the same as the Lord in quality, but there is different in quantity. Okay, Prabhupada writes a big purport to it. And Chakravarti Thakur also describes a huge purport about quantitative difference. You have said that you and I are not different. That is intolerable. Lord says, do not become angry. Please try to understand. The jiva, although same in entity, in liberation or in bondage, sees himself as two different forms in the mirror and in the eye. In the polished mirror, he sees a large image, bright, without change. In his eye, he sees a small image, dull, that flickers. If somebody sees fire in the mirror and fire in somebody's eye, it may look different. Same fire, but manifesting differently. Just as one form becomes two different forms by being uncontaminated or contaminated, so one should see the difference between Paramatma and Jiva. Oh, mirror, uncontaminated reflection. In the eye, it is distorted reflection. So the same force exhibiting differently. In the contaminated way, the Jiva, uncontaminated way, the Supreme Lord. Okay. Second last verse. Says, in this way, the both swans live together in the heart. When one is instructed by the other, he is situated in his constitutional position. This means he regains his original Krishna consciousness, which was lost because of his material attraction. When the living entity turns to Krishna, mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. Swarupa means to serve the Lord. And that starts when one surrenders to the spiritual master. Prabhupada writes a sequence of what happens to a living entity. He got attracted to material enjoyment, fell down, came in touch with a spiritual master. Again, he revives his original Krishna consciousness. Last verse. बर्हिष्मन्नेतत् अध्यात्मं पारोक्षेण प्रदर्शितं यत् परोक्ष प्रियो देवो भगवान विश्वभावनः. Translation.
My dear King, Kanchan Parihi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Puranjan to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization.
Okay. So this is how Narad Muni, he ends this wonderful story of allegorical description of Puranjan. It is an instruction for self-realization. Then Prabhupada writes some glossary about the different words that are used in this chapter. In this way, the chapter ends. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Shla Prabhupada
Hare
ki.
Krishna, Dandavata Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Granthara
Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
So I
Bhagavatam
hope
ki jai.
everybody is
Hare
preparing
Krishna.
for the second grand test also. अभी हम लोग 2-3 चैप्टर ही बचे हैं हमारे. I think there are 31 chapters in this. Yeah, 31 chapters. So
31 chapters.
हम लोग छोड़ेंगे.
Prabhuji, are we not like going
छोड़ेंगे नहीं.
just single chapters and then we will take the grand test, or it will happen as soon as we finish this?
Hare
Yes, yes.
Krishna.
After the tests only we'll take the grand test.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Then we'll have our presentations
But
also.
it's
And open book assessment.
presentation
Yeah.
open person.
Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhupada.
Thank
So
you.
many
Hare
things are there
Krishna.
to be done.
Prabhupada
Hare
ki.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.